If you are wanting to know the steps that need to be taken as your loved one is coming to the end of their life, keep watching. I have some really helpful tips for you.
Never been a product of a flawless environment. Never acted like I'm higher than you. And I still pray.
Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be talking about end-of-life planning. I am no professional at all, but through my life experience in dealing with end-of-life planning, estate planning, and that type of thing with my own family, I wanted to do this video. So a little bit about me. I am definitely no professional in this. I am not an attorney. I do not have an attorney's license or anything like that. But this is just, I wanted to help people based on my life experiences and the things that I went through. And hopefully after watching this, I can save you from going through a lot of pain. I went through my grandmother's death. My grandmother passed away in 2008. By my pastor, I and my uncle were made the executors of her will. My grandmother had 8 children, my mother of which is one of the 8. And I don't know, just because of family dynamics or whatever, we were made. I didn't want to do it. I didn't ask to do it, but I and my uncle, her youngest child, were made the executors of her estate. My grandmother did not have much, but how many of you know that during death and grief, people can act really strange behaviors come out. People deal with grief in different ways. There was a lot of animosity. There was a lot of trauma that I experienced through this, with my family. There was so much that went on that I'm still dealing with even on today. And this was in 2008. Then my own father passed away in November of this past year. And so that's when things really became real for me. And I, being an only child, had to deal with all of it. And it was just a lot. And I just want to say that this video is for everyone, but especially for Black people, African American people. We don't deal well with death. We don't. And we are notorious for not planning for it, for not getting insurance plans, and just not planning for our loved ones. And we don't have a succession plan. We just die, and we just leave our loved ones to deal with the mess, and it's not right. And I've been through that, and I've been on both sides of it, because my parents, they were wonderful. They did everything, and I just want to share those things with you because it made it so much easier for me. My parents did things real well. So I've been on both sides of it, and I just want to pass on the tips that I've learned and kind of the do's and the don'ts, and really the important things that you need to know. I recently shared this same thing with a friend of mine who had asked me, because she knew all the stuff I had been through with my father. He had been sick for a year, so I had a year kind of to prepare. And she knew of all the things that I went through alone. And so she had asked me if I would, kind of write some bullet points for her. And I told her, of course, I would love to, because I planned on doing a vlog about this anyway. So here it is. So keep watching and I'm going to try to be brief. But yeah, I have something to share, and I hope that you will watch this until the end. It's very good information. It is based on, again, nothing professional on my end. It's based on my own experience, and a lot of it is facts, and a lot of it I'll kind of interject the things that I went through, what made it easier, what made things difficult, or whatever. So let's get started. So the first thing with end-of-life planning, I want to talk about our 5 important documents that you need to have. Number 1 is the living will. So the living will, and I have notes here so I make sure I don't forget anything, but the living will, that's an advance directive, and it concerns medical decisions on your loved one's behalf. So it is where your loved one can write out. And again, this can be, an attorney can do this, or you can go online and get the papers, the documents yourself, and do this stuff yourself. And just have it notarized. You don't have to retain an attorney for any of this. So yeah, the living will is the first document that I'm talking about. And again, it is a directive that your loved one does to talk about the medical decisions that they want to happen on their behalf. For instance, if they don't want to be resuscitated, if they do want to be resuscitated, under what circumstances, if they're gonna want to be attached to tubes, if they want everything done possible to keep their life, or whatever it is that they want. That is what the living will document does. And it's very, very important. These things, they don't seem so important now when your loved ones are well, but as their health begins to fail in that, you're so consumed with your loved one being sick and going to the hospital and this and that, and you are not thinking about this. So it's best to think of this stuff now while they're well, while they are of sound mind and body. It is good. I'm telling you, do it now. Have the hard conversations now. Now is the time, not later, not when they get sick, not when they're on their deathbed. Do it now. I cannot stress that enough. Number 2 is the last will and testament. And this document is one that gives directives regarding financial and physical assets. So this is where they say, I want Aunt Susie to get my Bible. I want, Tom is going to get the house, all that kind of stuff, down to the bed, the furniture, such and such blanket, the special statue or whatever. This is where they designate who they want to get what. So important, because what ends up happening if your loved one does not do this, I don't know about y'all family, but I know about a lot of families, and they fight over just the little minute stuff. This little pad, mama wanted me to have it. She told me, she told me last year when I was over there visiting her and I was eating cornbread, she told me she wanted me to have this notepad and nobody else. Well, there's no proof. So you want to have your loved one put all that stuff in writing. You don't, as the loved one, as the person whose life is ending, you don't want to leave your children fighting over your stuff, not speaking to each other. I have seen, even in my own family, whole relationships between siblings, between auntie and uncle, cousins, destroyed, all because the loved one who has passed away did not designate who they want to get what. And so they left the family to fight over their stuff. And it don't even have the time. Sometimes people do have, a lot of things and stuff that's worth a lot, but a lot of times it ain't over. It's over nothing. It's over, this little engraved case. I want that. No, I want it. So it's really important to have a last will and testament where you say exactly who you want to get what. Okay. Number 3, a durable power of attorney. I can't tell y'all how important this document is. It is so important for your loved one to designate who they want to be their power of attorney. So this powerful document gives legal right to you to make decisions for your loved one should they become incapacitated in any way. That means if they become sick, if they have a stroke and can no longer talk, there's so many scenarios. If they become incapacitated in any kind of way, if they're in a coma but still alive, if they get dementia and they can't make decisions for themselves, all these scenarios, this document, if you become their power of attorney, it gives you the right to make decisions on their behalf. If you don't have this document, you can't make any decisions on their behalf. This document, I found it to be useful. I was able to use it at the bank when my parents became sick, because my mother is not well either. She's not able to really make decisions for herself anymore. She's still living, but she's really not able to navigate that kind of stuff anymore. And so this document allowed me to go in the bank. My mother and father, had already made me power of attorney years ago in case anything should happen to them. And so when they both became sick, and I didn't even see it coming, y'all, but when they both became sick, I was able to go into the bank, manage their affairs, make health decisions. My father was very sick for this last year. He went into the hospital November 15th of 2022. He never came out. Who would have thought? I didn't know that was going to happen. I did not know when my father went into the hospital that day that he would never come out of the hospital. He never did. He died on November 17th of 2023. Who knew? You can't prepare for this stuff, y'all. That's why it's so important to do what you can do now, while they're well, while they're healthy, while they're of sound mind. Can't stress that enough. So yeah, I was able to go into the bank. I was able to, when I would go to the hospital and stuff, they would ask, who are you? I'm the daughter. I'm the power of attorney. And so they'd be like, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? So they're looking for that, y'all. They're looking for that when you go into these different spaces. The nursing home, they're looking for that. They want copies of that. Yeah, it allowed me to manage all of their accounts, all of their bills, and all of that stuff. It doesn't make you responsible for it, but it makes it so that you like step into their shoes. You become them in their absence, even though they're there, but they're not able to do it. And so that document gives you a lot of power. Now, once they pass away, the document is null and void. It is no more good. That's the thing about a power of attorney. It's no more good after that. Okay, number 4 is a durable medical power of attorney. This is a document that gives you power over medical decisions on mom's behalf, on dad's behalf, or whoever it is, grandma, grandpa, should they ever become incapacitated. So my parents, they did both. They did a medical and they did a durable power of attorney. I haven't really used the medical one that much, but it's good to have. It's good to have both so that you are armed with, what you need, so you don't have no problems in nothing. So number 5 is the death certificate. So once your loved one passes, the funeral home will issue, and you usually have to pay for it. It's not a lot, maybe $5, $15 maybe a copy, but that death certificate is very important, especially if your loved one has a life insurance policies, pension, the title company. If there's a house involved, the title company would need a copy of it. So the death certificate is very important too. So you want to hold on to that, and they usually want an original copy. So those are the 5 documents. 1, the living will. 2, the last will and testament. 3, the durable power of attorney. 4, the durable medical power of attorney. And 5, the death certificate. So those are documents that I can think of that I used, needed. And in my case is, I think I went through all the things with this last year, the stuff that I've been through with my parents being sick, my mom being ill. She is still here. My mother lives in an assisted living, and I set that all up. They too needed to see that power of attorney, to get her in there. And my dad being sick, my dad was sick. Now with him, he was in the hospital. Then he went to this nursing home. That nursing home went to a, what do you call that? He was in a care home actually when he passed away. And with him, it was a lot. It was a lot of decision. Well, both of them really. A lot of medical decisions had to be made. A lot of business had to be taken care of. They had a house that had to be sold. It was just a lot. That's why I said I'm going to do this video for my people. It's for everybody, don't get me wrong, but especially for my people, because we don't like to deal with this stuff, and you got to deal with it. You know, don't leave your loved ones high and dry to deal with stuff. No money, no plan, no nothing. It's not right. It's not right. So I thank God. I thank and praise God for my parents, because they had me in mind. They had my stepbrother in mind. They did everything, y'all. They did all the things. I'll talk about that later. But right now, I'm trying not to be long. I hope this video won't be more than half an hour. But again, I cannot reiterate enough to do these things now. Don't wait until your parents, your grandparents, whatever, are old, sick, not of right mind. They're in a hospital. They're so sick. Don't do that. Do what you can now. And sometimes, let me say this. I remember when my grandmother was first kind of getting sick, and I was close to her. And I remember I could see where this was going. And I talked to her about, you know, I would try to talk to her about what her wishes were. What does she want? Who does she want to get what, you know, in her apartment and things like that. And she didn't want to talk. She didn't want to talk about it. And that's how, you know, we are, especially our forefathers in that. They didn't talk about that stuff. And she didn't want to talk about it. But we finally got her to, when she got really ill and was in the hospital, and we ended up having to have an attorney come to the hospital to determine that she was of sound mind, and we had him come to the hospital. She was on her hospital bed when we had the attorney come and do a will. But he first had to determine that she was of sound mind, and I'm sitting, me and my uncle sitting in the lobby with our fingers crossed and praying, you know, oh God, please, you know, don't let her say nothing, you know, out of pocket that they're going to determine she's not of sound mind, because then we couldn't have gotten the will. But he came out and he was like, your grandmother, your mother is just fine. Ain't nothing wrong with her. So thank God. But you don't want it to get to that point. You don't want to wait that long. Why do that? Why not do it now? All right. So I'm just going to give you a few more tips, things kind of that I dealt with, and just some things that I think are going to be helpful for you. If it is possible to do a prepaid burial, do that, and do it now. My parents, they had a prepaid burial. This, you guys, this is when you actually go into a funeral home and basically shop for what it is that you want in terms of the casket, in terms of colors, thank you cards, arranging for cars, arranging for the hearse, all that stuff. You can do all of that ahead of time. You don't have to wait, because y'all know when you're grieving, it's bad enough you've lost your dear loved one. But then to have to deal with going to a funeral home and picking out a casket, who want to do that? So if it's possible, do it now. And it is expensive. I need to do it for myself so that my children don't have to deal with it. Me and my husband, we need to do it. And we have not done that yet. But back then, I think it was like, I'm going to say it costs maybe $5,000-$6,000 like per person. So it's expensive, but if possible, do it now. Make payments. They have payment plans that you can do. Do what you can to save your loved ones from having to deal with the expense of that. I don't know if you have insurance policies. If you have an insurance policy, that's great. That will take care of a lot of it. But sometimes when you have an insurance policy, you want the money to go to your family instead of spending it all on, you know, your burial. So I'm just saying, if you can, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you cannot afford it. But if you can afford it, then have your, I'm so hot up here, y'all. I'm sorry. If you can afford it, do your prepaid burial now. Pay for all of those things now. Arrange everything that you want now with the funeral home. All right, the other tip that I have is to make sure that your loved ones know where you keep all your important documents in terms of bills, in terms of any kind of important documents, life insurance policies, paperwork, so that they know the name of your life insurance, so that they can call them when you pass away. Passwords, safe combinations, where you might have stuff stashed away, all those things, anything important after your death. Make sure that your loved ones, somebody in your family, knows where you keep all of your important documents. All right, the other thing, if there is a house involved, if there is ownership, I should say, of a house involved, make sure that someone that you trust, if possible, put them on the deed with you. I guess this is most helpful how can I say this? It just is going to depend on the situation. In my situation, of course, I'm an only child. I have a stepbrother. My parents, they put me on the house deed like a year before my dad got sick. My dad kept bothering me about coming to Memphis, where he was, which is only 3 hours away. But he was like, when are you coming here next? And I was like, I don't know, maybe next month, whatever. And he said, well, ain't no rush, but next time you come, I want to take you to the title company. And I was like, why he got me doing this? I couldn't understand it. Y'all, until he passed away. Then I understood why he kept riding me. I think my father knew how sick he was, and I didn't know. And he had took me to the title company. He had put my name on the deed of the house, and they notarized it right there. And y'all, I didn't even really know what was even happening. I just was going along to do whatever he wanted me to do, but I didn't really know what was happening. And what really was happening is that he made me a joint owner of their home. And so had he not done that, I believe what happens once they pass away and my name wasn't on there, or nobody's name was on there, the house goes into probate. And that whole situation, I don't even know what's involved in that. But my father, I thank God, bless his heart, and my mother, because she was there too. They took me into that title company, and they put me on that deed. It made me joint owner of their home, and I didn't even really realize the magnitude or really what was happening, because I never had experience with it. So I'm just saying that this is not going to apply to everyone, but if there is a house involved, you might want to think about doing that. Otherwise, I believe what happens is that the house goes into probate, and it's just not an easy process. But in my case, it was an easy process. I had power of attorney. I was able to, especially after my father, he had passed away, and my mom's sick, and I needed to sell the house. I had no problem, because I was number one, I was on the deed, and number two, I was power of attorney for my mother, because she was sick and really couldn't take care of business like that. So that's why that document is very, very important, y'all. I had no problems. It was just like me selling a house that I owned. That easy, but it's not that easy if you have no power. So the next tip that I have is, if it is possible, have your loved one to make all their bills electronic. In other words, their utilities that they have, their credit cards that they have, if it's possible. If it's not, it's okay. But it just makes life so much easier. My parents had everything paid electronically. There was only one bill that wasn't paid electronically, and that was like the water bill. It was like one of those bills. For some reason it wasn't, but everything, their cell phone, credit cards, their mortgage, everything, their taxes, everything was electronic, and that saved me, y'all. I didn't have to worry about paying their bills or any of that. So that's just a helpful tip. I know some people don't believe in paying bills electronically, so that might be an issue for some of you, but if it's possible, it's just another helpful tip to make things easier. The other tip that I have is to have your loved ones put your name on their bank accounts. Did I say that earlier already? As joint owner. I feel like I said that. I feel myself saying that already. Well, forgive me if I am being repetitive, but yeah, have your loved one put your name on their bank as a joint owner. If they trust you, or whoever that it is that they trust in the family, have them put them on their bank account as joint owner. Again, it just makes it easier should they get sick or anything like that, or at the very least have them put you as POD, John Doe POD, meaning payable on debt. So that means that if they should pass away, all of whatever is in the bank, all of the assets, everything in the bank goes to you automatically. So at the very least, have them do that. But if you can be a joint owner, it makes it even easier, because you walk into the bank, if you need to handle their finances, you walk in just as if you're them, because you're on their account. So that's just a tip. It helped me so much. Matter of fact, I developed a relationship. Matter of fact, my mother and father had, and really this was all really at the leading of my father, but my mom was there too. But my father, he took me, that was another thing he did. He took me into the bank, had me put on a couple of their accounts as joint owner. He had me put on all of their account as payable on debt. And I was able to meet their banker. And so once my father got really sick, I had to go into the bank for different reasons. And that lady, me and her became like this. She was so sweet, African-American woman. She was so sweet to me that she used to call me, like when I'd be at work, and she would call me just to check on me, because I was having such a hard time. It was such a hard year, and that lady, she went over and above. I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but it was just such a rough time that I went through. And that lady, she would call me just out of the clear blue, just calling to check on me to see if I'm doing okay. Nothing even to do with my parents. She just would call me to check on me and stuff. And we developed a beautiful relationship. And I used to, when I would go to Memphis, I would stop in the bank, and see her just to say hi and let her know how things were going. And it was just great. It was just great. So yeah, that's really important, to establish relationship. If you can, at the bank, have your loved one put you on their account so that you don't have any problems. But it just made it, I'm just saying, it made it just a little bit easier for me, because I met the lady, and her name was Quan Janice. I met her, and I used to go and talk to her, and she would talk to me, and I would update her on my parents, how my dad is doing. And I have cried with her, and she was just great. And when it was all over, I remember I went into town, and I bought her a bouquet of flowers, and I bought her chocolates, and I bought her some gifts and everything. And unfortunately, she wasn't there that day, but I left it. And I wrote a card and just told her I just could not thank her enough for her compassion that she showed me. Okay, let me get myself together. Okay, you guys, I apologize for that. Boy. Okay, so the next tip that I have is, make sure you talk to your loved one about their final wishes. How they want their wake done, if they want a wake, if they want to be buried in the ground, if they want to be cremated, how they want their homegoing service to go, what they want to wear, or who they want to sing. and you know, all of the things. And I know it is a hard conversation to have, and a lot of times older people don't want to have those conversations, but please try to have those conversations with them. It's so important, because to be left with trying to figure all that stuff out, it's a lot. And so I had I'm sorry, I've gotten emotional now, so trying to get it back together. And so I had written out, because I went through so much in 2008 with my family. When my grandmother passed, I did not want to go through, I wanted to be totally prepared. I did not want to go through anything like that again. And so I was really, in my mind, really being proactive. And so with my parents, I remember I was living in Florida then, so it was about 3 years ago, when I decided to write my mother's and father's obituary and to send it to them and ask them to edit it. And that's what I did. I wrote it out and I asked them questions, and I realized how much, especially my father, that I didn't know about my father. And I wrote it out as best I could, and then I mailed it to them and asked them to edit it, and they called me and they edited it, and I saved it. And my father ended up passing away, like I said, in November of 23, and that is exactly what I use, is what he had approved. So that is the best case scenario, if they can write out their own obituary, because who knows you better than you. And so that's what I had done. I want to add that, if this is another step, but you don't have to do it, but if you can gather pictures that you would want to use in their obituary, that you would want to use for any type of collages, for any type of slideshows and all that, if you can do that now proactively, that would be best. That was the one thing that I couldn't seem to pull together. I did my best, but my parents' pictures were in Memphis. I was in Nashville planning my father's service, and I did the best I could with pictures, asking people. That was the one part that was so challenging for me. And I didn't have a slideshow because I just couldn't pull it together. So that's something that I wish I had done earlier, as far as obtaining pictures and all of that. So yeah, that's something I would recommend if you could, because once they pass away, you're dealing with timelines. You don't have that much time, because the printer has to print all that stuff. And I just couldn't do it. And I just took that off of myself and said, I can only do what I can do. So that's why I can tell you now, if at all possible, do it proactively, do it now. You know, as you see pictures, you know, kind of collect them, gather them, and keep them in a place for later. Finally, guys, the one thing that I wish I had discussed with my parents, both of them, especially my father, because he ended up being, like I said, hospitalized, and then I had him, he went to nursing homes. He went to rehab first, and then he ended up going to a nursing home and that didn't work out. It was awful. And so then I put him in a care home, and then the person that was caring for him, her back went out. She had a really bad back. She ended up having to have back surgery. So my father had to go to a nursing home again temporarily until she could heal. But I could not keep moving my father like that. So I ended up putting him in another care home, and that is where he ended up passing away. But what I want to tell you is that is the one thing I never discussed with my parents, is what their wishes were concerning if they were to ever get sick. I did not know if they had an expectation of for me to take care of them, or if they wanted to go to a nursing home, or what they wanted. that's something that we just never talked about. And I'm telling you, I lived in constant guilt, in constant agony, that I didn't take my father into my home. I wanted to take him into my home, but I couldn't lift him. I couldn't do all the medical things. And I just felt so guilty because, you know, he ended up not being able to walk, and he became depressed, and I didn't know if he wanted me to take him. You know, I always felt like, oh God, I should just take him home with me, but then I couldn't care for him by myself. And so anyway, I said all that to say, if you can, and I plan on doing it with my kids like very soon. I keep setting up meetings with them to have these conversations, and we keep canceling, but I'm going to be doing it very soon. I'm 62 and it's not too soon. And I'm going to talk to them about that, about my wishes. You know, should I become incapacitated where I can't walk, need somebody to take care of me, and, you know, all of that. So if possible, have those conversations with your loved ones. So that's all I have, y'all. I know this was a lot. But the Lord just really laid it on my heart to do it. Like I said, it's for everyone, but especially for my people, because we don't like dealing with death. We don't like dealing with grief. Who does? But it's, you know, death, one thing we know, it's inevitable. It's going to happen to all of us. And so I just can't say it enough. Don't leave your loved ones. They're suffering enough because of the loss of you. Don't leave them to pick up all these pieces and try to, you know, get money up, and you don't have no insurance policy, and okay, you don't have a policy, but what is the plan? You just gonna leave them? You can't do that. We can't keep doing that, y'all. So yeah, I just wanted to do this. I hope this will be helpful to someone. I'm sorry I got so emotional. I am still grieving my father's death. Here it is. Well, it's not been even a year yet, but I'm still grieving the loss of him. But I just want to be a help to somebody, and I hope that this video has helped someone out there. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will help you as much as I can. Again, I am not any kind of professional. This is based on my life experience, what I have been through the years, what I have seen through the years. I have a lot of life experience. So let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope it helped you just even a little bit. All right, thanks. Bye.